have this slated for an hour and a half. Please do not think that you have to sit here the whole time and sit the whole hour and a half. The reason why I did that is travel fees and invoices, pay sheets. It's a lot of information, so it might just run over the full hour. And that's the reason why I stuck it at an hour and a half. So feel free to jump off whenever. Absolutely not necessary to stay the whole time. Even if I do go over, expectation is to try and squeeze it in within an hour, 10 minutes. But with that, I'll just carry on. The chat is open. I've got Amy Lamb with me. She's part of my implementation team. She's monitoring the chat, and she'll probably pipe in and say something if needed. The chat is open. Feel free to ask any questions. Well, let me back up. Feel free to ask any questions about the topics we're covering today, please. The last time I did this webinar, it went really well to hold the discussion over the topics that we had. So if you can just keep your questions to this nature, travel rules, pay sheets, invoices. We'll go ahead and answer those questions as best we can. So with that, let me begin. I am acting in a group. Hang on before I start getting bugged. Okay. I'm acting in a group. Actually, it's my group. I officiate football. This is the group that I'm a part of. This is my home group. So I asked my signer if it was okay if I could use his group for this example, and he said absolutely. So with that, we'll carry on. I'm going to start off with travel fees. All right. So underneath payroll, travel fees. This is where the travel fee rule lives, and we have. So I officiate out of Texas. We have centric rings where you've got a 0 to 30 mile is $15, 31 to 60 miles is $30, 61 to 90 miles is $45. And that's what you see. That's what you see these rings are right here. And any school that lives in those rings, you can say get that travel when you assign a game. So I'm just going to go into the $15 one. And as you can see, we have the sites that are in that are underneath the site list. We built it to where these sites of the schools that we cover, anytime my assigner goes in, this assigner goes in and assigns an official with any one of these sites in this $15 rule. It applies that $15 to that assignment. And I've got a few games set up so we can use them as an example, and I'll show you what we're talking about. But this is what you can do it off of a particular sport. You can do it off of bill to, but we do it off of site. And what you can do is on the drop down list, these are all the sites that are available to you. Something we could add that I kind of notice is missing, this one right here. This I know is a $15 site. So if I just click it at the very bottom, it doesn't sort alpha. At the very bottom, it gets added. So then when you got all that set up, the next things are game status. Only apply if the game status is normal. Typically, your game status is going to stay normal unless you got it canceled, rained out or something. And normal status is really only when travel's applied, minus circumstances that the officials were driving, a monsoon came, and the game got canceled, a couple hours before. That we understand, and you can go in and apply travel one-off. But I don't really ever when I'm instructing groups, I really don't mess with this setting all that much, simply because 9 times out of 10 the game status is normal, and we only want to apply travel when the game status is normal. But if you've got situations, you can absolutely uncheck that, and it will apply travel to every game regardless of status. But that's what that setting does. Does the travel apply to the driver, or to the furthest official that lives from the site? And I don't know if you've noticed, I'll go to those games. I don't know if you've noticed before, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But underneath each, if you come and edit a particular slot, there's a setting right here that says, am I a driver or am I a rider? those two settings I was just showing you, if I select that official as the driver, then the travel rule is going to look at just the driver and apply that. If it's selected as a rider or selected as in A and you mark the driver as getting the travel, then the travel obviously won't be applied to those. It's only for those who are selected as the driver. So if I go back to the travel rule, and I would have selected driver, only the slots that I mark as the driver are going to get the travel. In this case, I just leave it as all because all the officials inside these rings that we have get the travel, so it doesn't matter. And then furthest is obviously what it is. The system looks at the furthest person away, and that person gets the travel. Only one person gets the travel. We were going to add this on there. So when you add all your stuff and you get your settings created, click on next, and this is kind of where the meat and potatoes are. You can say that the mileage is flat. It's it's a mileage, and this is where you could say, I think national is 55 cents a mile. Could be 56. Anyway, I'll use 55 cents per mile. And so regardless of however many miles, everybody gets 55 cents. Ooh, that's $55. 55 cents a mile. Let's say that you had different options. Let's say that, because I've run into this group before, anything inside 60 miles, or I think it's 30 miles, nobody gets the travel, but anything 31 miles out, then they get the 55 cents per mile. If I click on this more options, it gives me the ability to say from 0 to 30 miles, everybody gets 0.0. But anything 30 miles to 999 or 9, however far you want to pull it, then they get 55 cents per mile. And that's how that would look, is where the system would look at that distance that we're all accustomed to, right, on the assigning page, the distance that the person is from the site. It looks at that, recognizes that it's inside 30 miles, so the person gets nothing as far as travel goes. But if it recognizes that it's outside 30 miles, then the 55 cents per mile gets applied. Now, is this round trip? Is it one way? This is where you can select if it's round trip or one way. If it's round trip, then yes, and it'll do 55 cents there and back, and it'll calculate that for you. If you get per diem, this is where you can put per diem here too. Maybe you get 30 bucks in per diem. We do when we go into playoffs, we get $30 for meals. So you could apply that here. If the rate is flat, if the rate is flat, then you can just say everybody gets $15 flat, period. That's it. No per diem. No per diem. And then it asks you for 2 questions on a linked set. Only apply to the first game in a linked set, and only apply to the first game at a site per day. These 2 are unchecked and are unchecked on purpose. The theory behind them is good. It really is. Only apply to the first game in a linked set. So you got 3 games linked together, and you got the same 3 officials coming to work those same 3 games. The travel rule will work appropriately. But if you have this setting checked, and let's say you got 3 officials, those 3 can make the first 2 games, but one of the officials can't make the 3rd game of the day, and you replace them out with somebody else. That new person that comes into that 3rd game won't get travel because this rule is applying it to the first game of that linked set. Okay, so I always just say, look, if you want it to recognize when a new official comes in a linked set of games, uncheck that box right there. Only apply to the first game at a site per day. This is a good setting, again, in theory, but it kind of works as I described in the first game of linked set. If you check this box, let's say we're hosting a tournament and you got 5 games at that site, regardless of if they're linked or not, the system is going to recognize the very first game in that set at that site And it's only going to apply travel to those officials at that site for the first game. All other officials at that site, regardless if games are being played at 2 separate gyms, but they're starting at the same time, it doesn't matter. The game's going to find the first game it wants to at that site and apply travel. Everybody else will be ignored. So again, in theory, these settings are good, and it makes sense as to what they are trying to do. I'm advising you that they're better off having them unchecked at the moment, because it'll cause confusion in the future until product can get in and fix the rule. So when you get everything set accordingly, then click on save, and it'll take you back to this screen. If you want to double check your work and make sure that it was set accordingly, then you can go back to the edit pencil, and there's what we added. Everything else we kind of stayed the same. When you go add a new rule, it's just basically a shell. You got to give it a name. Select the sport if you want to. So for this, we're going to look at college. Levels, all positions. Oh, he doesn't have anything in here. We're going to go football. Here are my levels. Maybe I only want to apply this to varsity games. JV doesn't, everything else doesn't matter. Or maybe varsity games get a different travel than the JV games. And in this case, you could set up a varsity rule. Well, you could set up a varsity rule and a JV rule. You could set it up that way if you wanted to. What positions? Maybe the referee is the only person that gets the travel. I mean, you can narrow this down to as specific as you want it to get. And then even when you go into further detail, you can say, okay, then for this particular travel, they get $45 regardless of wherever they go. So you can set it up however you want to, and that's how to set up a travel rule. It's pretty straightforward when you get into it. There are a lot of combinations that you can utilize to kind of structure a rule. The most common that I've seen is literally just the 55 cents per mile. Some people do use the driver settings, so they go in and mark who the driver is on the games. The downfall I have to that, or the con I have to that, is only admins can mark who a driver is. Officials cannot. So if you go that route, then you're going to constantly have to know who the person drove, or the person that drove is going to have to come in and tell you, hey, I was the driver, and you got to go in and mark it and recount the travel. But there is a lot of play here for your travel rules to get them set up. So with that, we're going to take these rules. I told you I had a couple games that I can use as examples, and we were looking at 3 of them, simply because I wanted to come in here and see something. So I've already assigned 2 of the games. I'm going to go in and assign these games now. The way the travel rule looks currently, we don't have it applied. For this game that we're looking at, it should be $15 in travel. So when I come in here and I assign somebody, regardless of status, doesn't matter what it is, I'm just going to put them in an accepted status just to continue on the example. When I put them in there, notice that the $50 should change to 65. So all the rest are 50 until somebody gets assigned, and then they go in as whatever the travel rule is that you set up. So if I come down the list and say, all right, I need to put these people in here, then you'll notice that the 65 is getting applied as soon as the official gets in the slot. So that's the way the travel fee rule works. Now, there is a setting, because I do run into some assigners sometimes, some admins that will reach out and say, hey, I know I have a travel rule, but I can't. It's not updating when I assign the officials. It's not populated. So if I go into the game report, there's a setting, if you're familiar with it, with the game, by looking at the game report that says pay travel. If this isn't checked, then the travel is pulled, or the travel won't be applied when you go to assign that official on a game. So there are instances where certain slots might not be set up to pay travel, or all slots aren't set up to pay travel. And something you can do that is beneficial is, say you run it, I'm only using 3 games, but I'm sure you've got a plethora of games, right? So this is a field that can be mass updated. So again, we're not looking at travel, right? I got officials assigned, travel isn't being applied. So I can check the games or games I need to. Come over here to where it says update, and this is a field that I can update in mass. Say pay travel, I need to pay it. Yes, I do. Update, the game has been updated, and now my travel is applied. So if you start to see a repetition that some games aren't getting travel applied, it can be level based, and that can be set based on the structure on the slot on your level. But at the same time, we give you a way to quickly fix the issue if you find it, to do the mass update. And then what I always instruct is go into your slots, because where to fix it is right here where it says pay travel. When you check this box, if it's unchecked, if it looks like this, then come in and check it. And when you save that, then it will apply travel to every existing slot that you just updated on your schedule, and will then apply travel in the future. So if, like I said, if you start to see a repetition and it's based on level, or it's based on levels, or maybe it's just drilled down to a particular slot, then this is where you can come in on this pay travel side. And if this is unchecked, come in and check it. And when you say save, of course, it won't give it to me now because I didn't change it. Well, here, I'll show you what it looks like. When you say save, it'll ask you, are you sure you want to update this slot and what you're updating it? So we're updating it to no. In your case, it would say yes. And then you say, yep, update it. And so all the slots that are living in your that are currently on your schedule will be updated, right? So it's that easy. It's that easy to just update your slots and get them to where you need to be as far as with respect to travel. Hang on just a minute. Let me take a drink of water if you don't mind. Yep. Okay, so the next example that I wanted to give, and it's why I had games existing or living in this assigner. Obviously, they were in the past, but it's why I had games living in the past. Was because I'm going to use those games to now show you what Paysheets look like. Just a moment. So we'll take those games that we have, well, maybe not. That won't work. All right, we'll go over here. So we'll take those games that we have created. So these. And we'll create the pay sheets on them. Now, something that I want you to notice is this pay by bill to. Pay sheets cannot be created if the slot is marked as paid by bill to. And here's the best way in my mind that I can remember what paid by bill to does. So every game, typically every game, I won't say every, I'm not an absolute. So every game, almost every game has a bill to put on it, right? What this paid by bill to is telling you is saying this particular game, game 836, this particular game is going to be paid by the bill to. It is not going to be paid by the association. Arbiter always thinks that the officials are going to get paid one way or the other, either by the association or by the school themselves or the bill to themselves. That's what Arbiter is thinking. So this paid by bill to is essentially a switch, and you're telling your software who's paying. Is it the bill to or is it the association? If it says paid by bill to, and the association is to be paying the officials, then this needs to say not paid by bill to. Good thing is, this is a mass updatable field, so we're going to mark all these games as not paid by bill to. We're going to check the box, come over to update, right here where it says paid by bill to. We're going to say not paid, and then everybody should be familiar with what it looks like now. Not paid. This is the signal that that Arbiter is saying the association is going to be paying these officials. Now, whether you pay them through Arbiter or not, maybe you don't have an Arbiter pay account. That is just simply the switch giving the direction of where those payments are supposed to go. Not paid by bill to means they can be run through Paysheets. Paid by bill to means they can't, because the bill to that's on the game is going to be paying for them. Muddy water, I hope I cleared it up. Nonetheless, now that these games are not paid, they also have to be verified. So we'll come back here. This is an updatable field as well. So check the box, verify. Yes, they are, and verify. Now, pro tip, I guess an extra pro tip. When officials submit game reports, 9 times out of 10, it's going to verify the games for you. So it's a benefit for your officials to come in and submit game reports. The reason why I say 9 times out of 10 is because if an official comes in and puts any comments here, it doesn't matter if he puts gibberish or if he puts a space, doesn't matter. If this comment box is touched and it's saved, then the report will not be verified until you or another admin in your group comes in and either verifies the game or checks this box right here that says resolved and approved. When you do that and save it, the report is going to turn green like it does here, and that's your indication that the game has been verified. There's nothing that needs to be viewed, and we're A-okay. So the three major pieces of information that needs to be done in Arbiter for Paysheets to work is game fees need to be on the game. The games need to be set as not paid, and they have to be verified. Those are the 3 big takeaways, if you will. Once those 3 things are done, then we can go payroll, Paysheets. I can either pick an official specifically, or I can just say all. Doesn't matter what I do. It's just, if you pick an official individually, you got to make sure you're picking an official that's going to have a paysheet, essentially. Select your date range. I think the date of the games I did 6, 7. If you do it within this year, you don't have to put the ending year, but if you go outside of the year, so like if this was in 2021, we would have to put 2021. But because we're doing it in this year, then you don't have to do it. So 6, 7. Now, this you're telling the system, I want you to look at games that live between these dates, and I'll just go 6, 8 for fun. There's 2 ways you can look at it. You can either look at it by date or you can look at it by level. By level is kind of a more high level view of viewing what games there are. And see, I selected Derek Anderson, so only 1 person is coming up. If I go all and say level, then there's all the games I've got. So these are all my officials that I had assigned to those 3 games that I had created. They each have 1. If I click on the 1, it's going to show me what the game is. I don't like the way this looks. This is just personal preference. I don't like the way it looks. I prefer it looking like this. I like clicking on the date button. Just gives me more information that I personally like to see. Maybe you like the level view. It's absolutely up to you. Not a big deal. But at least one way or the other, it gets you what you need. Now, if you see that there's a mistake, let's say that $55 isn't right, it should have been $50. Then you can come and click on this game number right here. It takes you to the game report, and then you can say 50, and let's say they all need to be 50. Oops, 50. By the way, I'm copying and pasting. 50, 50. Because the games are already verified with you making this edit, there's nothing really else you need to do. The game fee is going to lock. Now, it's going to take you back to this screen. You just got to click on date again to produce all the data and notice that the games have been updated. Okay. Now, this isn't you creating pay sheets. This is the, I guess, the interim before the pay sheets are created. This is you just making, this is your table to make sure that your game details, your game fees, your travels, the totals, any additions, deductions that have been applied to any of the officials that that are in this payroll run. This is what you're looking at essentially to make sure that all is fine. When you are good with the pay sheets, this date right here is essentially the timestamp. It's going to default to today, but it doesn't mean you have to stick to it. Like we could say that this needs to be this needs to have a timestamp of 6:10, or we need to go backwards and say a timestamp of 6:1. That date can be adjusted. So it's really not set in stone. It's just, this is when the pay sheets were created is essentially what that's doing. If you have an assigning fee applied to your group, this is where that comes in. So some groups I work with, the most recent one off the top of my head is every assignment that the assigner makes is 75 cents per assignment. So that he's got a assigning fee on the back end of his group that when he runs his pay sheets, that 75 cents is going to be automatically deducted if this box is checked. So for example, this person, if we were in that group, this person's getting $50 plus 15 for a total of 65. Because he has a 75-cent signing fee applied to his group, then when he creates the pay sheets, instead of saying 65 bucks, it's going to say 64.25. And so on and so on and so on. That's what this right here does. If you don't have an assigning fee applied to your group, then you can just ignore this, and this being checked or unchecked has no impact to you at all. But if you do have an assigning group and maybe you want to be generous for whatever reason, this payroll run, if you uncheck it, then that assigning fee won't be applied. Up to you how you want to do it. But when you get everything set, then you sit right here and you click on this create button. They'll ask you, you sure you want to create pay sheets? Yes, I am. So we say, okay, and it's going to think for a little bit. And it's going to say, pay sheets are created for these officials in blue, and all the rest are not created. Not a big deal. The red is not a major error or anything. It's just telling you this official for the dates that you selected, no pay sheets can be created because they didn't have games or they didn't have additions, deductions, so nothing was created. That's simply all it's telling you. It's not a big hard warning that you need to be concerned of. It's just saying that these people couldn't have a pay sheet created. So scroll to the bottom, past all that information, and then when you want to look at your pay sheets, then you come right here to where it says view and print checks and pay sheets. And they're the ones we just created. So now those pay sheets are available for the officials to view on their side. We can even go act as some of them and look at their pay sheets, but now when they go look, I tell you what, I can go print pay sheet. You can add some stuff on here if you need to, like this is for week of 6, 7, whatever info you want to put here. You can even put game detail, additions, deductions detail if you've got any. But just for plain Jane to get through the example, we're just going to go through and say print. And there's what that pay sheet looks like. This is the same thing that's available to the officials. They can absolutely go grab this when you want to. Now, my advice to associations when they use pay sheets, keep them there for 3 months, 2 months, 5 months, whatever you want, but just set a date that if now is June, in September, I'm going to go in, or in October, I'm going to go in and delete my June pay sheets. The reason I say that is because it's hard to delete or remove officials out of your roster if you need to when they have a pay sheet assigned to them. It's hard to remove games when you try to clean up your schedule when there's pay sheets associated to them that are paid or unpaid. It doesn't matter. If you're paying them through Arbiter, the pay sheet is not what collects the 1099. The payment is. We hold that record of payment on the Arbiter Pay side. So you can always go back and get to it. And when we run our 1099s, we always look at the transaction record, not the pay sheet, which is another reason why it's hold them for 3 months and then get rid of them. Always give your officials, hey, a heads up. In the coming days, I'm going to get rid of my June pay sheets. If you want them for your record, go in and print them. But by X day, they're gone. Now, again, the record is always held in Arbiter Pay, so they can always go back and look at that transaction history. But the pay sheets themselves, they're just there for record purposes. And when you're done with them, go ahead and get rid of them. But that's always my advice to, and don't take my 3 months as a hard stop. Like if you want to hold them for 6 months, for 8 months, for a year, hold them. That's fine. That's what you want to do. You can do that. But I always just recommend when you're done with them, delete them, because there's really no benefit in holding them, because really all it's doing is allowing you to generate a report if you need to, and allow the official to print the pay sheet for their records if they want to hold it for whatever reason. But again, the transaction history is always held in Arbiter Pay, and that's where we always grab our 1099 information. We look at the transaction, the physical transactions, not the pay sheets. It's funny, you'd be surprised how many questions I get when I talk about pay sheets. Is that what y'all look at 1099s? No, it's the transaction, not the pay sheet. So I hope I subsided that. If you're going to pay them through Arbiter Pay, then you can check the box or the ones that you want to pay. There is a fun little feature right here that if you click on calculate, it'll tell you the total that's going to be paid out, the processing fees in order to pay these officials, and the grand total that's going to be sent. I actually found that feature out a couple months ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. So you can see just exactly what's going to be leaving the Arbiter Pay account. When you're ready to pay, click on this Pay by Arbiter Pay button right there. It's going to take you to the screen for you to be able to put in your Arbiter, for you to be able to pay them via Arbiter Pay. Put in the PIN number of the account that you've got linked. Put in that PIN number, 1234, whatever it is. If the tax ID number of your organization is not displayed, you will have to put it in for the first time. But once you put it in and make your first payment, it locks and it won't go anywhere. So the next time you hit this screen, the tax ID number will be there. Forgot your PIN, you can go through those steps, but when you do everything you need to, click on this pay button and it'll run through Arbiter, or it'll run the transactions through Arbiter Pay. When you're done, or excuse me, when it's done and it might hit an error, let's say that one of your officials here just happens to not have an Arbiter Pay account, the transaction won't make it. Let's say Derek Anderson, only because I know him really well. Let's say Derek Anderson doesn't have an Arbiter Pay account, but everybody else does. Everyone else will be paid except Derek, and it'll tell you a successful transaction. The info next to Derek will say no Arbiter Pay account, and he won't be paid. So then you go, okay, I got to reach out to Derek, and I need to let him know that he needs an Arbiter Pay account. So just to get out of this, when you click on cancel, instead of everybody shown here, only Derek is going to be the one that's there because he's the only pay sheet out of this list that didn't get paid. And he'll sit there until he has until he links his Arbiter Pay account, and you can pay him with that. Okay. So when you're done, you can toggle this switch right here from where it says unpaid to paid. Now this group doesn't have any paid pay sheets. I wish they did, but all your paid pay sheets would be listed here. A little pro tip. This date range right here. Let's say you were running a payroll for 2 weeks. I don't know what 2 weeks is, but I'm just going to pick a number, 650. If I come down here and it says use this date range right there, if I check that box, then what I'm telling this module to do is when I click on view print checks and pay sheets, I only want it to look at pay sheets with the date stamp inside this date range that I'm selecting. Okay, so if I were to move this to say 6-1 to 6-2, well, let's just say 3. And remember, we did it on 6-9. If I say view and print checks and pay sheets, nothing's going to show up because I've focused my search on those dates, right? But if I either uncheck the box right here, or if I make sure I put 6-7 through 6-15, and I say use date range, then the pay sheets that I'm looking for in that date range, both paid. No, it only applies to unpaid. It doesn't do to paid. I found that out the hard way. So it only applies to unpaid pay sheets. You'll be able to filter your unpaid pay sheets down to that specific date range. Okay. I'll pause there, Amy. Do we need to address any questions that are outlying by chance that are in the chat?
I don't think so. Let me look here.
Yeah, that's fine. Gives me a chance to drink some water.
Right. Drew had asked, where's the setting for assigning fees globally? I'm not sure exactly what he's asking here. If he's asking.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, give us just a little bit more detail. We'll be happy to answer that.
Right. Not sure about that one. Let's see. Someone else asked, will 1099 information remain even if we remove pay sheets? We covered that if they pay through Arbiter Pay. And then he said they do not pay through Arbiter. So I would recommend keeping those pay sheets for your records.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Are you going to be covering how to set up assigning fees?
No, but it's easy. And the reason why I say it's easy is you have to let us know what your assigning fees are, as detailed as you need to be. Maybe you're broad, like the group I was talking about earlier. They have an assigning fee of 75 cents flat. Maybe each level in your group, you know, each level that you have in your sports, maybe there's a different assigning fee associated to each level. If that's the case, then you got to let us know. But email us. We can submit a ticket to product support. Excuse me. We can email we can submit a ticket to product support, and then they will be the ones to apply your assigning fee on the back end of your. I wonder if it loaded. It did. So they'll be the ones to apply the assigning fee on the back end of your group. And I'll show you 103, 367. I'll show you with a group I know that has an assigning fee. If you see right here where it says travel pay and assigning fee formulas, if you click on that, then there's your assigning fee that we had to apply, right? So this group is a little bit more detailed as far as assigning fees goes. This is what theirs looks like. And anytime that a high school match is assigned based on these levels, because these are their levels, then a $2 assigning fee, or $2 per match fee is applied to those officials. So you can get as detailed as you want, you can get as broad as you want, or as a basic as you want. But if you just let us know what your assigning fees are for your group, well, and also provide us your group number, but we can apply that assigning fee to the back end of your group so that assigning fees can be created.
Right, and I will also share a link that will take them to an article on how to do deductions, additions, and so if they want to use that feature, they can use that until that's put in as well.
Correct. And I'll see if I can slide that in here. We do have a little bit of time. I'm actually going faster than I thought it would. So if I want to delete these pay sheets that I created, then I can just check the box or check the ones individually that I need. Say, whoops, those pay sheets shouldn't have been created. Then I need to delete them. A thing to note. Once a pay sheet is created, the game information is essentially locked down. Like there's nothing you can do to change it. The only way you can change the game fee information on a pay sheet that is created is A, it has to be unpaid, first off, and then B, you have to delete the pay sheet first, which essentially releases that game information. And it can be specific to the official, but maybe it was an entire game that was ruined or that's wrong. Then you would have to delete every pay sheet for that game in order to fix it. But nonetheless, you delete the pay sheet, it frees up that information, and then you can edit that game fee or travel or per diem, whatever. You can edit that information and then recreate that pay sheet, and you're back to where you were. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Is once a pay sheet is created, especially if it's in an unpaid status, You cannot adjust anything to that gain anymore. But I'm going to delete these pay sheets. So we check the box. I'm going to say delete selected. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I am. And then they're gone. And again, that freed up everything on those games, which is fine. It's not a big deal. And I can go back through and manipulate what I need. Now, I'll touch on additions, deductions, because it's actually a nice little feature that, with respect to pay sheets, is something that can be of benefit to you. Additions, deductions is essentially a way for you to be able to apply a random fee to an official or set of officials. The example I like to give is assigning fee, or assigning fees or dues. Dues is another good one to give the example. Let's say Daniel needs to get a signing fee applied to him in the form of $15 for whatever reason. Then I can put an assigning fee down here. These are the options that we have to select from. I think it's a very good list to pick from. We do give you the other in case we just don't have it listed, but I think it's going to cover everything you need to with this list. We'll stick with assigning fees, and I'll cover the date in a minute. I skipped it on purpose. Is it an addition or is it a deduction? The mindset I have for this is if it's an addition, then I'm adding it to the pay sheet I'm about to create. So $15 would be added. If it's a deduction, then obviously the reverse, that I'm removing $15 from the pay sheet I'm about to create. Check versus invoice. Where is this? Dang it. Where is this to be applied? Invoice is for schools. Invoice is for, schools. Well, invoice is for schools and officials. Check is for pay sheets only, okay? If you're running pay sheets, then you need to apply it to a check, which it really is pay sheet. But if you want to invoice the officials for assigning fees, then you would select invoice. Kind of confusing the way I explained that. I hope it made sense. In this case, I need to apply it to a pay sheet that I'm about to run. So I'm going to put it as a check because it's going to go to a pay sheet. Assigning fee for month of May. Oops. All right, so there's the assigning fee. Now let's get to the date. This date is important simply because, so let's use this example. I've got assigning fees in for this is my assigning fee for this official for the month of May, and it covered all of May. But I'm running my pay sheets today on June 9th. This date is not the stamp date like I talked about for the pay sheet. This date pertains to the two dates I needed to search off of at the very beginning of my pay sheets. Meaning, if I'm going to run payroll in the month of May, then I need to make sure that this date says the month of May, okay? Let's narrow it down even further. Let's say I'm just doing 2 weeks worth of payroll and I need to encompass it in my 2 weeks that I'm running. And let's say it's June 1st through June 15th. Then this stamp right here needs to be somewhere in that date range that I'm searching for. Okay, so 6/9 is a good date to use because it lands inside my 2 weeks of payroll. Okay. So when I get my date set and what I need, I say create. Are you sure you want to create the additions, deductions? Yes, I am. It just, if you notice, the screen flashed. I don't know if you saw it or not, but that's how you created additions, deductions. Some people will go, wait a minute, nothing happened. Well, then what you can do is say, well, let's see if it got created. I'm going to select the official, say view, and there's our assigning fee that got created. Okay. And now, if just to kind of bring it full circle, if I go back to pay sheets and the timestamp on that pay sheet I created was 6/9, so I say 6/1, I don't have to 6/15. Let's say that's the payroll run, and I go date. And then down here at additions, deductions, did I say 9 or 6? Might have gotten confused. Well, I guess I got confused. Anyway, down here underneath additions, deductions, it should show. I don't know in my process what I did. Yeah, it should be there. Oh no, that's not. Let's do this. Maybe I got confused on invoice versus check. Pay sheets. 615. I don't know. Should be there. Well, yeah, it should be there. Anyway, it should show right there. I don't know what I did wrong.
Did you create it for May?
Maybe I did.
I think you created it for May. You can go back and there you go. You should be able to view it.
No. Oh, because I said 2021, not
Wrong date.
2022.
Okay, the wrong year.
So anyway, if you put the right year on there, it'll appear. So anyway, I hope I touched enough on additions, deductions so that you understand it. Amy is right. I think I saw her put the article in there as to how to make it work. But nonetheless, I want to make sure we squeeze enough time in here to cover invoices for schools, because I know that's another big piece as well. So the games I have listed here, the 3 games that we use as the example, they also have bill amounts applied to them. And if you ever notice, that's what this is right here, this amount box. You can see that there, or you can see it on the game report itself, right here. But that's kind of where this comes from. You have the ability, not kind of, that is where it comes from. You have the ability to set bill amounts, just like you have the ability to set game fees. But it's all based off of your schools or your bill tos, even if you drill down to your levels, okay? You can say all, maybe varsity level, all of your varsity games get a bill amount of $100. Do whatever. You can set them up however you need. But if you attended or have watched my webinar that I conducted last month about game fees, these boxes operate the same. The only difference is when you do bill amounts, that goes towards schools. Game fees goes towards officials as far as the schedule goes, okay? I have those 3 games created. So what I'm going to do is say invoices. We're going to create the invoices from here. One of the schools I used was A&M Consolidated. My, excuse me, my date range fits what I need. But if you need to adjust it, you can. I can even drill down even further. Let's just say I need to go 6/9. The invoice date right here operates the same as it does on the pay sheet that we talked about earlier. This is just a timestamp of when the invoice is created. If I click on date, then there's the game that I created right there. I can go either all and say, I want to see all of them. I didn't, really? Oh, okay, I learned something today. So I know that that's one, and I know that that is one. So even here's 2 schools. Here's 2 of the games that I created, right? If you need to adjust something, you can. But what you're seeing here is just the high level view of the invoice itself. When you're ready to create, say create. Yes, I am. Okay. Okay. Those 2 were created successfully. View print, and there they are. Okay. Let's just view one of them, see what it looks like. This is where you have the ability to say, please remit payment to 123 Main Street, Austin, Texas, 78729. I think that was my old address, 78729. So you can put that right here. And when you save it, it gets applied to every pay sheet that you either print or that the schools, when they have the relationship of the bill tos, they can go in and print these pay sheets as well. So for associations that use invoices, what I tell them is, make sure that the contacts that need to see the invoices have the relationship of the bill to that they need, respectively. And then when you create your invoices, you can send them an email that says invoices have been created. Please log in and download them at your leisure. Absolutely feel free to continue to send them if you're one that does and sends them out. If you want to, that's totally fine. But at least you know that the schools or those contacts that are associated to their respective bill tos can go in and get these invoices as well. You can say game detail and additions deductions detail if you want to bring over that when you print the invoices. These same selections are available for those contacts that have the bill to relationships. And when you say print preview, then here's the invoice that that the schools see. And there's my gibberish that I typed in that blank. So this is where you would see, please remit payment to College Station Football Chapter, 123 Main Street, College Station, Texas, 7784. So you can go in there and put that information right there. If anybody, little piece of information, if anybody ever wondered what the title or the header does for admins, that's where that comes in. It just simply goes on the invoices. I mean, it would be easily missed, but the contact information comes in right here. And then any remit information that you want to can go right there. And then there's the game detail. Of course, if they've got multiple games, then those multiple games will be listed, etc. And those are the invoices for the schools. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of that just in case. And then say exit. Now, something that you can do in Arbiter or with the invoices is you can track receipts. So if a school paid you for this invoice right here, then you can come in here, say receipt, click on this 0 and add a receipt. Receipt number, it will give you receipt date, when did you get it, the amount, let's say they partially paid, that was 160, I think is what it said, so we can go 100. How did they pay it? Check, cash, money order, did you take a card? Any of those that you want to, but we're just going to say check. Reference or check number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Memo, if you want to put a memo in there, you can. Doesn't have to, say save. So then now, the receipt has been applied. It shows you what's outstanding, $60, and the last time that they made a payment. Now the next payment comes in. Let's say it's $615. The remaining $60 comes in. $60. They paid you by check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. They save, and now they're even. And when you go look at your list of invoices, you can see that 2 receipts have been applied. Maybe the school calls in and says, "Wait, I paid you." You can come back in and say, "No, the only 2 payments I got is on 6/9 and 6/15. Check numbers, whatever they are." So it helps you with your records on how to keep track of those invoices as well. The thing about these, which I don't think it's going to happen. Oh yeah, it did. Okay. And then when you're done with an invoice, you can just delete it. Invoices apply the exact same way as pay sheets. What I mean by that is if you're using it to keep track of records, obviously you got to keep it until your books are square. But if you're just using it as a paper source or a way to get out an invoice, but you're not really tracking it with receipts, etc., then you can get rid of invoices whenever you're done with them as well. Do note that if you ever do get ready to delete games, invoices are tied to those games as well. So if there's an invoice that lives on a game or games, then those games cannot be deleted until the invoices are deleted. So you can come in here and say, well, I need to delete just this one, or you can come in here and say, I need to delete all of them. But when you're done, you're done. And again, when you're deleted, all the receipt information, all that tracking information is gone. So it's always just a nice habit to come in and make sure you print those invoices and keep them handy. The invoices for officials, something I didn't cover, operate the same exact way as the ones that they do for the schools. The only difference is that these are really pertain to assigning fees, advance payments, dues, etc. So if you're going to apply an additions deductions to a pay sheet, then when you create the pay sheet, that's when the additions deduction is going to be applied. If you apply it to a invoice, then it never looks at the pay sheet and it only runs through invoices. So just keep that in mind on how you want to do additions deductions. In fact, I think I know what my flub was. Look what I found. So here's that additions deduction I created because I stuck it to an invoice, not a pay sheet. Okay, so I actually made it with 5 minutes to spare, believe it or not. But that's how you create travel fees. That is how you run pay sheets and how you can create invoices. So Amy, please feel free to chime in. Are there any questions that I missed? Anything that needs to be covered? Fill me in.
Let's see, Connor just asked, the example shows how to bill a school. Feature that allows you to bill leagues, levels, and assigning fee to link with games.
Yeah, so we talked about the assigning fee. And when you send in your assigning fee rule, one of the questions that I get from product when I forget to tell them where to apply it is they always ask me, is this assigning fee going to be applied to schools or to the officials? So you can even tell us, okay, these are the assigning fees that are going to be applied to the schools or associations or leagues, whatever it may be. And these are what's going to be applied to the officials. And we can actually separate those out so that when you run invoices or when you run pay sheets, X is applied to the officials and Y is applied to the schools. Okay.
Okay.
You are able to use it for recreations. In fact, now that you asked that question, let me dive into another guy that I use a lot because he is just a rec league assigner. It's for soccer. And where I'm going, 103651. I've forgotten his number. Yeah, okay. So the reason why I say you can use it for rec leagues is because it's all driven off of the bill tos. And what you would have to do is create a bill to for the invoices or the separate leagues that you run. Because this league, for this particular assigner, this league has a different bill amount than this league and that league and that league. So the way invoices are prepared, are created is based off of the bill to. Did that answer that question? I feel like it left it short.
I think it did answer that question. I'm going to share the link on how to set up your game fees as well. He's asking, when assigning 2 game or 3 game blocks, the officials change positions. Can Arbiter recognize this, or would it be a manual setup for each game? You can actually set these up. So go ahead.
Correct. Yeah, no. Can continue on your thought, Amy. You had it, so go ahead.
You can actually set them up in advance so that anytime you schedule that game, the system will automatically know what to put in for your game fees in regards to each position, each bill to, each team. So I'm going to share a help article that will take you step by step on how to actually set up those game fees in your account.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll go there right now. So we have a YouTube account. I guess channel is what it's technically called. But we have an assigners playlist. And all the videos that we have specifically, well, I don't want to play all of them. I want to view them all. All the videos that we have for the assigners, we put them up here. And if you notice, I wonder where mine is. The video that I did on game fees a month ago, the training I did on game fees a month ago, I actually covered that as well. So feel free to use the article that Amy just sent as well as the video that or the webinar that I hosted that I uploaded here. Feel free to go watch that as well. Gosh, I don't know what I do with that. Maybe they took it down. Hell, I don't know. I'll look for it. But anyway, the video's there. But what Amy's getting at real quickly is game fees. And this is where you can dive into how much each position is, what each position gets. So notice right here, there's the referee position. If we had more than 3 slots, then you can see what he's got down here. So there's all the different positions. And you can establish the game fees for different positions. So it's actually a really good example right there, Connor, because the game fees are different. Yes, Derek, that is true. You're welcome, Connor. I see that. You're welcome. Okay, Lawrence, let me see if I can, and I guess we'll hit on this. So we hit our hour. Feel free to, I'll just stay on for a little while and answer some questions that I can. I'll just kind of open the floor a little bit and stay over. Amy, I hope you're okay with that. If you want to stay, you can. If not, then you can go ahead and dip off. But I have touched on how to create invoices, pay sheets, and travel fees, which was the point that I wanted to cover here. I'll let the recording run. If I want to edit it, I can, but I'll just go ahead and now to start answering any questions that kind of come up. I'm done with that portion of this webinar. If you want to stay on, absolutely feel free. If not, and you hop off, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming, and have a good rest of your day. So with that, Lawrence, let me think. When assigning, is there a way to filter the refs to only see active refs? Example, last ref that did recertification are still shown. It sounds like, but if I were, let me see if I, actually, I'm just gonna go back into that other, we're just gonna go back into that other group. What is going on? All right, so if I say future games assign, so when you know when you come and click assign, it says available officials, but what it's doing is it's showing you all officials that are not eligible. Then it should have this eligibility. Man, I don't know. I'm if they're showing you officials that aren't eligible, then it sounds like your eligibility is off. Because if I'm not eligible, I wouldn't. Of course, I'm in a group that doesn't have eligibility turned on. It shouldn't. It should show you. It should filter out those that aren't eligible. But if it's popping over here to where it says potential officials, look at your filter set, because there are instances where it'll pop over to potential officials, and then it will show you those officials that are not eligible or lacking a eligibility, and those will appear here. The available officials should filter out the ones that are not eligible and only produce those. So I hope that answered the question, or at least points you in the right direction. That one's a tricky one. Yeah, so I'll actually use the games that you see here. Well, actually, I'll just use a different group. Sure, Connie, hang on just a minute, bear with me. 103367. Let's see if she's got any. Huh. Perfect. All right, so it doesn't matter how you link games. Actually, let's just do this in real time. let's go, see if there's any. Oops. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm looking for a, okay, perfect. Notice that there's nothing linked here, right? Now, what you could do is, I know, okay, all right, so we all know that these two games right here are supposed to be linked, right? Chances are they are. Even though it looks like there's two different stadiums, chances are they're more than likely supposed to be linked. So we're gonna go check the box, and say link, okay? And now those two games are linked. But there is a feature in here that we can go, all right, these two games are gonna be linked together. And I know that these two games are going to be linked together, and these two games are probably going to be linked together. So let me show you something fun. If I check the box right here that checks them all, we have this option that says auto link, unlink. If I click on that, it's going to ask you, what do you want to do? You want to unlink the games or you want to link the games? Well, in this case, we want to link the games. So I'm going to say mass link, and it produces you this, these two questions. Minimum minutes between games, and again, in Arbiter, you know that when you add a game, there's always an end time and then a start time for the next game. That's what it's asking you. What's the minimum minutes between games? To be honest with you, I always just do 200 because it's gonna capture everything. Okay. What gets crucial is this right here. Maximum number of linked games per set. So I was drilling through and we recognized that there were two games, because we would look and say, okay, I know these two games are going to be linked, and I know these two games are going to be linked. But let's say you're a volleyball assigner, or let's say you're a basketball assigner, and you have a freshman, a JV, and a varsity game. Those are three games that are going to be linked together. So if you have that, and all it's asking you is how many number of games are to be linked together. What's the maximum possible thing that could be number of games that could be linked together? Then you put that there. If it's your case, you say 3. In my case, we only know that 2 are going to be linked together. It wouldn't hurt to say 3 because it's not going to interrupt anything, but I know that 2 are going to be linked together, so I'm going to leave it at that. When I set my 2 parameters and I say process, it's going to say, all right, these games were able to be linked and these games were not. Well, why weren't those games not linked? So I can go through and go, okay, cool. The games that I know are linked together because that's right. It's the same date. It's the same site. It's the same team, home team at least. I don't think it carries the weight of home team, but I do know that it looks at, I know it looks at date. I know it looks at time, and I know it looks at site. So those games are linked together and all that looks great. Now all I have to do is spot check, well, why are those games not linked together? Oh, because there's no other game on the same date with it. Same here, same there, and there, and there, and there, and there. Okay, it looks like it worked. And you can go down all your teams, or even if you want to do it in a week, you can go through a week and just mass link your games like that. So I've done one team in a matter of, minus my long-windedness, I did one team in a matter of 2 minutes, if that, a minute. But that's the way, Connie, that you can link games. You either do it by hand by checking the box, or you can check the box themselves right there and use that auto link unlink. So that is probably a permission set. And it goes to self-assign. So right here where it says game sets per day, if it says 1, if it says 1, then if you've got 2 games linked together, those are two games. X game sets per day, it's not the linked set, it's actually the physical game. So if you've got 2 games linked together, they can only pick one of the 2 games. They can't pick both. So it probably needs to be a simple adjustment right there to say, I'll give you 3 games, and they should be able to self-assign themselves to those linked games. No, Lawrence, it's not. It just looks at site, time, and date. Doesn't care about the number of officials on the games when linking.
Patricia had asked, can we block officials from adding notes in Arbiter? And I'm guessing she means on like a penalty report, perhaps? That would be under default permissions, right?
On
Okay,
a,
that is what
on a
she's looking
penalty
for. So,
report? Yeah.
yeah, so I'll send her the link, unless you want to show where default permissions are for officials.
So Patricia, it says on game reports or notes, every official should have the ability to add a note on a game, if I'm not mistaken. But what you can do under preferences is where it says lead official to submit game report. Only that person can submit a game report. So not all officials can access that game report. Which then in turn means that the officials can't add notes onto the game report, but it doesn't stop, at least the lead official, it doesn't stop them from adding notes to a game report. So to answer your question, no to notes, because every official should have the ability to do that. Yes, partially to game reports, because you can restrict only the lead official to seeing the game report, and then only the lead official can add notes. So that's the no part. Good questions. I'm happy to sit on another couple minutes. I keep changing a bill to not be paid by bill to, but somehow it keeps reverting back. Are you doing it through the game report? Because if you are, come on, mouse, let's go. Because if you are, you have to uncheck the boxes and then either lock them or verify, or else it won't. Oh, through the bill to. Oh, this? Yeah, so that is kind of doesn't work. I mean, it works, yes, it does what it's supposed to do, but you don't have the ability to manipulate that. The only thing you can do is do it right there on the game report, by unchecking that box. So what you could do is say, let's say Bastrop High School for whatever reason, or hell, I'll just do it this way. I'll say, I'll go bill to, right? Because I can filter on a bill to. Let's say that Hutto High School. I don't even know if there's games in here yet for them or not, but we'll see. All right, cool, they're in here. All right, so these Hutto High School is a not paid by bill to. And what I can do is search for that bill to specifically. Well, no, you still do have the ability to go through the steps I'm about to do. So search for that bill to, check the box here and say update, and right here, paid by bill to, not paid, and then update them. So that box, because that's a standardized record, that's why you can't change that setting on the bill to, is because it impacts other associations that use that same bill to. And that school might pay their officials one way versus your group. It could be to that, without knowing the structure of your group, and how it operates. That is the only way I can think of it as to why it's not working. But this still takes care of what you're trying to accomplish. Yes, you're trying to uncheck the box underneath the bill to itself. Just do it this way. Search for the bill to on your schedule and mass update those games to say not paid by bill to, and it will accomplish the same task. No comment. All right, any others? We got a little bit of time. Oh, okay. Well, then if you don't do that, so here, then I'll fix it for you in a quicker way. So either now you might not be able to do this. Maybe your lead admin is the only one that needs to do this. So, and if that's the case, then go to resources and go to your positions. Okay. Underneath each position, there's a setting that says paid by bill to. If that's checked, then uncheck it and save it, and it will update every slot for that level to say not paid by bill to. There's your solution. That's what needs to happen. So that's what needs to be done. If you can't do it, Patricia, as an admin, as the lead admin, maybe your permission is removed from being able to edit sports and levels, then let the lead admin know of your group that, hey, this is what needs to be done, because that's the solution for our paid by bill to issue. But that's what's driving it, is that right there. So just come in and uncheck it. And again, it's slot specific. It's even level specific. Even if it drills down to a particular level, but that's what needs to be done. Is each slot that is not paid by bill to needs to be come in here and uncheck that box, and it will fix your solution, or it will fix your problem. That's your solution. Okay, any others? I'll give you 17. I'll give you 3 more minutes till 2:20. No, not really, Lawrence. As far as easy method, is there an easy sort method of levels? No. I mean, the arrows give you the ability to bump levels how you want them to be sorted, but you just gotta bump them up and down as you want. I hope I'm answering your question. There's no like alpha order. There's no, you can't click on the name like you could if you wanted to, put them in alpha order. You just got to bump them with the up and down arrows to how you want them to update. I can try. Bruce, you have your hand up, my friend, and the only way to get your question in is to type it in the chat, my man. All right. I guess no more's coming in. I'll give you back a minute. Ooh, right on time. What are subgroups for? Oh, that's for that's if you're a super group. So like right off the top of my head, Washington 104759. This is a super group for the state of Washington. So this lead admin can come in and see all the different groups that are in the state of Washington that are part of the WOA. So that's what that's for. It's really only if you're a super group. The tabs are there because it's universal. If you don't have any you can click on it and you'll make it, but if you don't have any subgroups, then nothing will appear for you, so you can just ignore them. All right, so with that, I got 219 coming up on 220, which I told you was my cutoff, simply because I got to prepare for my next webinar. I want to thank Amy hopping in here and monitoring the chat. For those on the call still, this was a last minute thing, so so I appreciate you, Amy, cutting your time out and being able to help me out here.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I hope that everyone's still on the call. This was a major benefit to you as well. I try to plan on doing these once a month. I don't have I forgot to get that together. I'll try and figure out a topic for next month that I think needs to be done. I usually send out a questionnaire at the end of this so that you can give your 2 cents on what you would like to see. And that's where this topic came about. Was the most votes I got was pay sheets, travel fees, and invoices. So that's how this came up. I'll see if I can think of another one for next month, but I kind of want to keep these coming out once a month. It seems like these are helpful for people. And again, just a reminder that when this recording is done and I can put it on YouTube, I'm going to put it up there. So if you ever need to go back and reference this, then you can go back and watch it and grab it from YouTube. So with that, I thank everybody's time, or I thank you for your time, and I hope everybody else has a great rest of their day. Take care, and I will talk to you later.